Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019. And we are continuing to march forward to another offseason together. As always, you can find our 24/7, 100% free, boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Today, we're going to continue with our rookie impact rankings. Number 9, we had 7th round pick Jonah Monheim. Number 6, we had 6th round pick Jalen McLeod. And now he was number 8, excuse me. Now we're moving on to number 7. Again, it's pretty clear who's going to be number 1 on this list, but I've always thought that, the middle really of the order is what's most intriguing. That's where you start to get into really some of the more spirited debates and tougher choices. Like for me, picking number 1 will be easy. Picking number 9 was relatively easy. Picking number 8 was relatively easy. But 2 through 7, I think, is where it legitimately gets tough. I truly think, there could be any kind of order of those really, 6 guys that I wouldn't really disagree with wholeheartedly. But I'm going to present my best case and why I think the order is what it is. So at number 7, I'm going to go with 4th round linebacker Jack Kiser from Notre Dame. I think that Kiser is going to play the middle linebacker position for the Jaguars, backing up Foye Oluokun, potentially backing up Ventrell Miller, depending on what he's playing in the scheme. Maybe he's playing weak side linebacker. We don't really know. But either way, a rookie who, it's not slotted to be a starter, which is the case for most of the draft class. But with those who aren't set to start, there's at least roles that you can see them fitting into. And the real question is, across the board, when you're comparing those roles, how valuable and how impactful are they? For, example, several players drafted after Kiser, who I will have ranked higher on this list. It's not because I think they were better picks or anything like that. I just think their specific role they are going to play could lend its way toward having more of an impact during the 2025 season than what I expect from Kiser. Now, when watching Kiser's tape, honestly, a better athlete than I anticipated. I know, for example, I know his RAS, relative athletic score, is nowhere near Chad Muma's, but I feel like he plays faster because he's already a plus athlete, plus has really good instincts, really good read and react. I didn't get the sense that he was actually somebody who was that big of a negative in coverage as you, I think, would expect from, a middle linebacker from Notre Dame. A lot of people kind of expect those to just be run-only guys. And while I do think his run defense is his best, asset, best strength, I think that he brings more to the table as a pass defender than probably people give him credit for. I think his game, if he develops, I think he can be a starting level linebacker at the next level. I do want to see him, how he deals with physicality, especially with blockers climbing to the second level, because I don't feel like, an overly physically imposing guy, but lots of, experience. Great special teamer, was a MVP special teamer at Notre Dame, special teamer of the year, whatever you want to call it. And when, Liam Cohen was asked about which rookies stood out the most to you during rookie minicamp, obviously not counting Travis Hunter, Jack Kiser was the first guy he mentioned. And I thought it made sense because he looked, in that kind of setting, only in, helmets and shorts, not any live reps, not a lot, and not really that much real offense versus defense. But still, somebody who moved around really good, looked relatively athletic. They seem to think that he's picking things up, really well. And what I've heard about how the organization feels about him and felt about him during the draft process, they just think what he brings from in instincts and football IQ level are off the charts. And when you watch his Notre Dame tape, it's hard to disagree with that. It's clearly a guy who prepares, clearly a guy who is normally in the right place at the right time. But the reason he's at number 7 and not higher is a lot of kind of just due to the position that he plays. Like, he's not the only defender on this list who's going to be a backup. But a lot like with Jalen McLeod, he's a little bit different because he can be more of a blitzer, pass rusher type guy. But, both kind of playing linebacker. Outside of last year when they rotated linebackers, which was very odd, you just don't really see that at the NFL level. You're either, if you're a linebacker, you're starting or you're playing special teams. And, obviously with Foye in there, he's not going to start. I think that it's very clear that he's going to be a backup early on in his career, which is not a bad thing. He's a 4th-round linebacker. He's a guy who they're hoping, obviously they can develop, and let's see what he can turn into. But I just think the nature of being a backup linebacker, and, obviously he'll play special teams, but I think that just dings him a little bit in terms of this ranking because it's purely looking at impact, not skill set, not even fit with the team, anything like that. Now, if they have a rash of injuries like they had last year, they were dealing with injuries with Foye, Ventrell, Devin Lloyd, etc., then, that itself could lend to more playing time, more snaps, more experience with the defense. But overall, he's just somebody who I don't project to have that big of a role in 2025. Now, it could be interesting moving into 2026, however, because obviously Devin Lloyd's in a contract year, Chad Muma's in a contract year, Ventrell Miller will be in a contract year next year. The linebacker room could legitimately look a lot different a year from now. Could be completely, flipped around, a lot like the offensive line, wide receiver rooms this year. If I had to pick a position group that's going to get completely overturned next year, that's the one I'm picking right now. And that, of course, would lend itself to a positive for Jack Kiser, moving forward, obviously, and a potential role, in the defense. I just think when looking at Kiser, he's more of a long-term pick than a short-term pick kind of guy. And I don't think it's a bad thing to make those kind of picks. They can afford to have a guy sit behind Foye and sit behind Devin Lloyd for a year and develop and not have to be rushed onto the field, though he has enough experience and playing time and production to make you think, he's kind of a pro-ready, game-ready, kind of guy and should more or less be able to step into that role rather quickly. So I don't see him as a starter this season. I could see it moving forward as soon as next year, but not this year. And that is why he's at number 7 on this year's list. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find all of our videos, such as podcasts, press conferences, interviews, etc., on our YouTube channel at Sports Videos on SI.